But with the NHL's Las Vegas Golden Knights debuting next season and the NFL now moving the Oakland Raiders to Vegas, I believe, in 2 years,
2019.
the city is now pushing for an MLB team. The news broke that both the city and the league had equal interest. Rob Manfred said that he would be interested in it, and that we could see MLB teams not only in Vegas, but as we talked about prior, Montreal. There's also a fan base pushing for Charlotte to get an MLB team.
There's a lot to talk about right in there, but continue.
Right. But, general focus is, Vegas is the big story right now. So I do have 2 questions for you, 2 topics to hit on, and I do have a little bit of statistics here. So I want to know your thoughts on all the sports moves to Vegas. Do you think it's a good move, bad move, interesting kind of town? Off the bat, you'd think, hey, it's only a tourist town. But I do have some numbers here as far as estimated population and everything. So do you like the idea, and are you against it? And then on top of that, what teams would you like to see move there, or would you prefer them to add 2 teams to the league?
I do not like the Raiders moving to Vegas, only because of where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from one of the most loyal fan bases of all time.
Right.
I mean, they already had the deal with the Raiders going to L.A. for a couple years or 10 years and then moving back. And so the Golden Knights I like because it's an expansion team. I like what the MLB is going to do because, first off, the MLB would never do what I don't think any MLB – so MLB and the owners, I think, are a little more old school than I think the owners are in the NFL. So I don't think the owners would ever have signed off for MLB to move a team like, I don't even know, the Houston Astros. I don't think you would vote for that. I don't think you'd vote for the LA Angels or especially the Dodgers. And I feel like the Dodgers are as much of a part of their community as the Oakland Raiders are. So I just think it's like, I just don't like the move of going from Oakland to Vegas. And the NFL is not in a position to add any franchise. It's literally perfect.
Mm-hmm. Right.
4 divisions, 2 conferences, 4 teams apiece. It literally doesn't get any better. I really like how it's set up.
Yeah, no, it works great for the NFL.
Houston Texans really made it in 2003. To me, the most perfect league as far as playoffs and divisions.
It gets too jumbled. The more teams you add, I mean, I can certainly understand. Back in the 60s, we're looking at baseball, and you got, 20 teams or maybe even less, 16 teams? I was going to
say, less maybe.
Obviously, that can get boring.
Especially when it's only the Dodgers, Red Sox, and at that point, Brooklyn Giants, then moving to San Francisco, and the Yankees. So there was only like 5 or 6 teams winning, and same thing was with the NBA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Although Oscar Robertson was a big name in Milwaukee Bucks were not a big name. Mm-hmm. So it still was the Celtics and the Lakers and the Knicks ruling everything with Walt Frazier and Larry Bird, or not, but before Larry Bird, Bill Russell, Bob Cousy.
Yeah.
And kind of, I don't really want to say same thing with the NFL. It's always been a really competitive league, even from the start. But I like the NHL going there because, like I said, it's an expansion team. I don't like the NFL going there strictly because now if it was the Jags, I really like Sean Conn, so maybe not so much. But there are a couple teams in the NFL that I just don't think were as strong as the Oakland Raiders were in Oakland.
It's wild to see the Raiders going because they are a winning team currently. That's one of the weird parts of it.
Yeah,
for
the
me.
Rams were a team that wanted to get out of St. Louis because it wasn't a winning culture. The money wasn't there to even promote the Edward Jones Stadium.
Yeah.
I heard that it was it was a rundown stadium.
Right.
Arena.
And then you had the Chargers too, who never really brought out that many fans, even when they are
good.
It
was a loyal fan base, but the fan base itself was small. So you're right.
Right. So your thoughts on the MLB moving there? Would you like to see it? And
I want to make sure Montreal is taken care of first. That would be my thing. And I don't think you do what the NHL did with a 31st. I think Rob Manfred would put one in the AL and the NL. Mm-hmm. Do I like the I think it's cool for Vegas to have all these teams. What I really hope is that they're doing it with a long-term and I mean 20, 30 years.
Right. They have a legitimate plan in mind to.
Yes, because what we have seen in sports in general is these publicly funded stadiums get $150 million, but then they only sign 10-year leases. But then when you look at how long it's going to take for the city to pay it off, it's going to take 30 years.
Right, right.
So then they end up with a stadium or an arena that doesn't get used.
Well,
we've seen it a lot.
Turner Field in Atlanta has only been up for 20 years.
Do you think that's paid off? I don't think. I'd have to say.
Yeah, I don't know the finances on it, but I can't imagine that they plan to be out of the stadium within 20 years.
Where you see this in a very significant way is in the Olympics, when Olympic cities around the world put up these huge Olympic facilities, and then they're literally never used again.
Right, right.
Never. And so I just don't want to see that.
Right.
That's my biggest thing. I don't want to see that.
It's you'll see it with Miami too.
The thing is, you could very easily
Yeah.
see the Marlins not be there after a brand new stadium in maybe 5 to 10 years, and they've only been with for 3 years.
Especially with the team being sold currently, and they never bring fans out there. So my feeling on it currently is I wouldn't mind seeing an MLB team there.
I wouldn't. Like I said, it's not about the MLB itself. I don't want to see the city getting screwed out of money that the MLB takes to the bank and then runs away with.
Right.
And then doesn't have to deal with the consequences of a stadium. If the MLB had to own every stadium, you wouldn't see the proliferation of sports happening so quickly. You just wouldn't see it. Mm-hmm. If they had to buy rights from the city, if they had to, and I'm talking like 100%, you would see, you might not see this many teams if the MLB had to do everything, which shows kind of, that you know what I mean. If when things are privately funded, it's harder to happen. Right. And so why put it on the taxpayers for people who don't care about sports? That's my only thing. Because we're going to look at our census data. Las Vegas actually is more of a permanent address for people, more than I thought.
Yeah. No, I mean, so I had texted you about this earlier this morning, I think. And, we had talked previously because I didn't really like the move of the Raiders over to Las Vegas. I don't particularly care for Vegas as a sports town, at least off the initial look. I'm an East Coast guy. I know Vegas as a tourist town.
We wouldn't know it as anything else.
I thought of the story and I wanted to do some digging. So I hopped online. The 2016 estimated population for Vegas is actually 623,747 people, which is good enough for 28th most populous city in America. Philadelphia is 5. Philadelphia is 5, so we have like 1,240,000 here. That's right. And then I wrote down a list of cities that have baseball teams, that have multiple sports teams, and have less people living in the city limits.
Right.
And there is a lot. I was surprised at how many there are. To name a few, actually, I'll name all of them. It's like 10 here. Milwaukee has less. Baltimore has less people. Kansas City, Atlanta, which I was surprised about.
Very surprised, actually.
Miami, Oakland, Minneapolis, Tampa, Cleveland, Anaheim, St. Louis, and Pittsburgh has the least of all of the major sports towns. Has the least amount of people.
And most of those, if not all of them, are thriving. Maybe not the Rays.
Yeah,
but almost everyone else on that list, I would never even think about them moving. Mm-hmm. Except maybe the Brewers.
Well, and that's another thing that I do have here. I wanted to know. Now, you said you think that maybe the expansion is good with 2 extra teams. For
scheduling, maybe not for competition, but you give more kids a chance to make it in the majors. Because then you create jobs. I don't know how many jobs. I don't think it's like a significant type of thing. But, I mean, when you think about how many baseball teams have to exist for one major league team to exist, we're talking AAA, AA, Single A, and Low A. And probably it will spawn an independent league. So you're talking 5 ballparks to then a 6th major league team.
Yeah, I mean, plus you are injecting the city with, the workers union, the dudes that have to build the stadium. That's a 3-5 year process right
Yes.
there. You get ushers, you get full-time ushers, you get all these front office people, you get
The jobs,
ticket sales
it
reps.
definitely-
There's certainly a lot, an injection of jobs. I'd say, a good few thousand people eventually throughout the life of the building and everything would come into work. I am more for, now if you're talking job-wise, obviously I'd love to have people have jobs and, working in the cities, but I would love to see MLB just move 2 teams. There's only 2 teams I really have qualms with being in existence, and I know one is not going to move. The Tampa Bay Rays, which I certainly can see them moving to Montreal. You want to keep them on the East Coast, preferably. Love to see the AL East at 5 teams. It kind of was all junked up when the NL had 16 teams, the AL had 14, and the Astros were they were the 6th
NL team
team
at the time.
in the NL West at that point. Just a real weird setup. That's my only thing about adding 2 teams is
You'd almost have to add 3 teams per league.
Or you
to
at least
make
gotta
it-
structure it like the NFL then, where you have 4 divisions with 4 teams in each. If you're gonna make it 32 teams, so you're looking at a whole entire shift of
division. It's a whole new divisional, and then the wild card. I mean, if you would make it 32 teams, you'd almost have to steal the NFL's playoff.
Right, where you
structure.
just have 2 teams play that, or 4 teams play those.
And I mean, does baseball have a team that has a bye round?
Yeah, they do. Well,
I mean, outside of the one team, out of the one.
yeah,
the one-
you
the
get
one
the wild
game
card.
playoff.
You get the wild card game. So if you want to call that a bye, sure, but otherwise, no. So I would love to see the Rays. I'd like to see them go up to Montreal. Obviously, I don't like the Marlins being in Miami. But with the brand new stadium and everything, I can't imagine them leaving anytime soon, especially because that was, like you said, funded by the city.
And Jeffrey Luria stole public funding, saying that he didn't have the money to build this stadium.
Right.
And he's about to sell the team for $2 billion.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
you know what I mean. This dude's a loser.
I'd love to see them
I don't
moved,
like
but
it.
I don't think that they're going to get moved. One team I did read, and this would be a shot in the heart, but I did see that if there is a team in Vegas and they wouldn't add a team, and it's not the Rays, it could be the Oakland Athletics, which would be a shot in the heart for Oakland.
For that whole city.
And I did pull up the Major League attendance and teams that don't sell so well. Last year, surprisingly, the Toronto Blue Jays had the highest, in the AL at least, had the most people come out to their games throughout the year. So
Like
Toronto's showing out.
So is that most tickets sold then?
Yes, they had 3,392,000 tickets sold throughout the year. On average, 41,000, which was 4,000 more than any team in the AL.
It was an awesome experience when I went. It was awesome.
But so in the AL, you got the Oakland A's and the Tampa Bay Rays. Those are the two lowest averaging. Rays only average 15,000, 16,000 people a game, which is ridiculously low. For a stadium that can hold 31,000, 40,000 at times. And then the Oakland A's are at 18,000. Surprisingly, the Cleveland Indians don't pull any fan base at all. They've gotten, on average, was 19,000.
They've just recently become winners.
Right.
So I can imagine.
But I'm saying this was 2016, so this was last year when they went to the World Series, and, they were one of the best teams in the league all year.
In the AL, in the entire AL, yeah.
And they pulled less than 20,000 people a game.
The reason I don't think there's going to be relocation because there's less money involved in that. You are staying at a status quo. The only time you're making money is by you banking on the team doing better. Mm-hmm. I look at Tampa and Miami as touristy towns as well, and I'm not sure if is Vegas really, especially with you already have the NHL and the NFL coming there. Mm-hmm. Are there people that are actually going to show up to all 3 franchises? Like, for football, yes, because there's only 16 games. It's almost like not a question.
Right.
NFL games, even Jags games are highly sought after. Mm-hmm. With the NHL, hockey fans are crazy. And so it'll be a tourist destination for people who are Flyers fans to go watch the Knights and the Flyers or whoever. You'll see those people come from those places for that game. Whether it's Toronto or St. Louis or Columbus or, Florida, wherever. Going to Las Vegas for a game, that's cool. I think, to your point, though, is relocation seems smarter to try to maybe put teams that aren't doing well in a place that will do well.
Right.
Because if you put the Athletics in Vegas, you wouldn't have to move them out of the AL or the West. They would stay there. And then with the Rays, the only thing is you're taking 2 AL teams. If you would, if you were to relocate,
you move them up to Montreal though, you're still staying AL East. You know, it's
yeah. But what I'm saying, oh yeah, right, true. So that actually there would be no in-division changes to be made,
right, which would make it easier. And
right for
the Rays
league.
are literally making no money for the MLB.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Stadium is a crap hole.
Yes, this is true.
They are pulling no attendance at all, no fan base. You know, they could be one of the best teams in the league and not be even coming close to selling that place out. Which
look, the Indians are one of the best league teams, and they're a storied franchise.
Right.
You know what I mean? They've been there for they're one of the oldest teams, and they're still not. You know what I mean? They're old guys. Their true baseball fans aren't even coming out.
Right.
And if they are, those are the only people coming out.
Well, same for the A's too. I mean, you look at them and they seem to have all these crazy fans, but where are you guys you're not showing up, and that's why these teams are being talked about.
Wow, that would be
moved.
terrible if Oakland lost
moved,
both of their franchises in the same maybe year
their
or
fan
2
base
years.
is pretty crazy for the Oakland A's. They have a pretty diehard fan base too, as small as it may be when they're not good.
But they're not selling tickets.
Yeah, but just not selling tickets in the Coliseum.
Which if you add more, if you would add a team in the AL and a team in the NL, wouldn't you only take away potentially from those cities doing better? I just don't know if it's smart for the MLB to add teams where they might not do well when you have teams that are already not doing well.
Right.
I mean, the NFL is just blessed in the sense of, and so is the NBA. Really, the NBA doesn't have too many. The Pelicans. But even they just got the new Smoothie King Arena, and people show up for AD and DeMarcus. In the NBA and the NFL, they're such popular sports, and their average age is only getting younger. That the Milwaukee Bucks have full houses. You know,
right?
Teams like the Sacramento Kings are one of the teams that still they don't have a huge following, but they sell tickets. So I'd like to see relocation before we see expansion. And like I said, I'd like to see the Rays go to Montreal. That would be if you would do anything. Because I know Montreal will back it.
It just seems like the Rays have to move at some point.
And then
you would have to.
And then they would you'd think they'd bring back the Expos.
Yeah, I mean something along those lines you'd think. Obviously
I
if
think
you go to Montreal that works.
I mean, we talked about baseball being disrespectful earlier with Wai Yin Chen. It would be disrespectful if you named them anything else.
Yeah.
How I feel. I mean, guys like Pedro Martinez coming back in their old Expos jerseys. You want to see that.
Right.
And then you'd have your alternate 03 jersey. You know, I love alternate jerseys.
Yeah.
They're the best.
The odd thing with Vegas is they do have a AAA team. And I would like to see
the Area 51s?
Yeah, it's the Mets AAA.
Yeah.
Is Mets AAA team. I'm going to pull up, before we head out, I want to pull up the Las Vegas 51s, see how much...
how well they do.
Yeah, how well they do. And obviously, this isn't an MLB team, so you can't expect the games to be packed. But
look at the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs.
Yeah, right.
They lead the league every single year in sales. And I think every single game was a sellout the first couple seasons.
A nice thing for the Iron Pigs is that they're so close proximity to their major league team that you have these diehard Phillies fans that know every single prospect that's with the AAA.
Like, for example, if you and I didn't live in the Lehigh Valley, we didn't have family up there.
Right.
It wouldn't be too far-fetched for you, me, and Andy to go up to an Iron Pigs game.
Right.
So even people from Philly probably are going up there, especially with assignments. Like when Chase Utley played there and Ryan Howard played there. People love that, and people will travel.
Right.
People will definitely travel.
So let's see. And this is 2017. So they've had 3 games thus far. Actually, no, they haven't played at home at all this year. So let's see what they had last year. Let's see, Las Vegas 51s. They brought in 332,000 people. On average, 4,882 a game. About 4,000 behind the leader, which was the Sacramento River Cats. Now, obviously, granted, this isn't a major league team, but it looks like they're not selling as much as other AAA teams are. Now, granted, like I said, it's not a major league team, and the Mets fan base, I'm sure, is not big out in Las Vegas.
I'd have to
so
say
you're
that.
not getting any Mets fans out there. You're just getting your local.
Well, that's why the AHL expanded 5 teams. Because the San Jose Sharks AHL team, when I was a Phantoms intern, was in Worcester, Massachusetts. So if you had to call in a guy, you couldn't get him until 2 business days after you called him up because of just how the time zone was and how long it took for legal approval. I mean, I know, like, legal approval. But it is a paperwork process that has to start before you put a guy on a plane. And so they moved 5 AHL franchises to California just this past season. Actually, a guy that I know actually moved out to San Diego to go work at the AHL franchise out there.
Cool.
So I could see a Mets franchise, a AAA, being moved to Syracuse.
I mean, they've been trying for years, but these 30 teams only open up so often, and when I think it was the Mets and the Blue Jays both were looking for teams. The Mets had Buffalo and the Blue Jays had Las Vegas, and Buffalo decided to sign like a 3-year contract with the Blue Jays.
That's right.
To become the AAA team. So the Mets' only option was Vegas. But yeah, so I mean, I think it would be cool. I think, my research, at least, and I'm always a proponent of researching before you truly give an opinion on it. Prior to my research, I thought, Vegas is probably only a touristy town. They're not going to pull any attendance.
28th most populous city.
But yeah,
and that's not tourists.
right. You're looking at. So
you're looking at a city that has the people there, and people fly in all the time.
People that are there, and there's more people in these cities or in Vegas than almost half the MLB cities. So. And most of them pull good numbers. I mean, the Brewers don't sell that much, and
to me, the Brewers can go. I do not need them in Milwaukee.
Yeah,
we have Detroit Lions. You know what I mean? We have local teams. We have the Milwaukee Bucks. We have the Green Bay Packers. You know what I mean? As far as that tri-state area right there, I don't.
They seem to. I don't know exactly what their attendance is like, but they seem to have a pretty good fan base. They were right in the middle of the pack last year, averaged 28,000 per game, which was more than the Pirates, Diamondbacks, Braves. I mean, these are all the bad teams in the league pretty much. But obviously, if you're winning, you're going to have more attendance. But I mean, it'll be fun. I really hope that it's not an expansion. I hope that they just move the Rays, and obviously love to see them go to Montreal. I wouldn't want to see Oakland move. The only other way that I could see it happening was Miami, but I don't think Miami is going to do it just because of how new they are. And Cleveland's attendance numbers would lead me to believe that maybe they should go to Vegas, but Cleveland is a full 4-sports town, I believe. Probably want to keep it that way. And with their recent success, I can't imagine them moving anyways.
And another thing about Vegas, I mean, people come there to spend money.
Yeah.
People in Philly, it's the highest poverty rate of all 64 major cities. And so typically when you go to Vegas, you're going there to spend money. So I don't think I think financially you'll see a good amount of people show up. I really do. It's just then at that point, and like I said, I'd like to see the real proposals. I want to see the proposals for the 10-year outlook on the Knights, the Golden Knights. I want to see the 10-year outlook on the Raiders through 2029. And I'd like to see whoever moves or expands to there. Because like you said, if you go to 32 teams, you have to change the whole playoff outlook. You have to go NFL. You almost have to go that route. And then at that point, maybe if you don't want to do a bye round, you don't have a wild card, and you do what the NBA has done.
Yeah.
If it's going to be 32 teams.
Just do the top 8 teams or top 6 or something like that. I don't really want to see the expansion. I think 30 teams is a really good number for MLB. Wouldn't mind seeing teams move. I just don't know who would move other than maybe the Rays.
You'd have to do a lot of card shuffling, a lot of money moving, a lot of moving parts.
Talk. It's all just talk right now. There's nothing official for the MLB.
Yeah, but Vegas
probably would be years.
It seems like though when things are talked about in Vegas, it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll be able to report on it some other day.
I mean, I remember reporting on this when I was a Phantoms intern in 2015 about the NHL going, and me and Brent Baldwin, we thought it was not a joke, but we didn't think it was really going to happen. And then they got league approval the same way the Raiders did.
Right.
And then it happened. And then they did expand.
Mm-hmm.
And so all you need is someone to buy the Rays and move them, just like was it Stan Kroenke did with the Rams? You know, the same way that other people do. You know, what I mean, it's up to the owners. And if the owner wants to move and pay that relocation fee, it will happen.
Right.
And so all it takes is someone to buy the Rays, or to have Jeter buy the Rays and want to make money and send them.
Mm-hmm.